What's up, everybody? Just give me 1 second. Can you guys hear me? Let us know in the comments. See how delayed the chat is.
Yeah.
Okay, John, why don't you say a couple things real quick just to make sure they can hear you? There might be a little lag on John's, just the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
Hey everyone, John for Room 237 Reviews here. How we all doing? You guys hear me all right?
Okay, yeah, everyone hears you. Good.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, my name is Sean Mazral. This is Nocturnal Horrors, and I'm with John, and he is from Room 237 Reviews. We actually both started our YouTube channels in January, so we're definitely newbies here, and we're excited to be a part of this crawl.
Yeah.
So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your YouTube channel, what you do on it, and then we can slowly work our way into The Shining and all things Shining universe.
Sounds good. So I am John from Room 237. In January, I've always wanted to review comic books and horror movies. The Shining has been my favorite movie, for close to 20 years now. Room 237 had a great ring to it. It had sort of creepy atmosphere, like you guys are coming to visit me. So I just chose that, and it's been a hell of a fun hobby ever since. And this is my first ever live chat with like a set topic or anything. So it's kind of nerve-wracking but cool at the same time. So I'm really digging that, and feels very perfect that my first ever one is on The Shining, my favorite movie.
Yeah,
and it comes from
same for me. Same for me. Yeah, definitely my first live stream. Very worried about technical issues, so I'm glad it's working out okay. And I mean, The Shining is just, for me, it's the greatest horror film ever created, and it's I talk about it a lot. I do a lot of Shining videos in my YouTube channel. One of which is just called like The Shining is Life, and it's just basically where The Shining isn't just a movie. It's not just a book. It's so much more than that. It's like it's in the clothes that we wear. It's in the blankets that we tidy up in. You know, it's all around us in terms of film, in terms of a lifestyle. It just is. It encompasses everything I do, kind of. So. Yeah. Let's just start. John, how did you first hear about The Shining? What did you tell us about the first time you saw The Shining?
When I was a young kid, my grandmother had a bunch of Stephen King books, and Stephen King was sort of my transition from like Goosebumps, kiddie stuff to big world horror. And I mean, I guess I wasn't the best reader back then, so I just wanted to watch the movies. My other grandparents, they were video rental junkies. I mean, every weekend they were at the video store.
Awesome.
So I was like, I want to see Stephen King movies. What can you get? And they kept recommending The Shining. Like, they always talked about it like it's a horror movie and then some. Like, you won't even know what hit you. So I was probably in like 5th grade, out at my grandparents' house, out in the woods, around fall time in Maine. That's where I live. Just a chair in front of the TV, everyone in front of me, and I didn't know what hit me. Like, as soon as it was over, I was just kind of sitting there, just like, you know, like horror movies before that. I was used to like Creepshow and maybe Pet Sematary, stuff like that. But The Shining was, it really is life. I mean, it's the most widely interpreted horror movie. Like, you'll sit there and it will boggle your mind if you try to figure anything out in it. and like I was in like 5th grade, so like 10 or 11. That was the first time I saw it,
Nice.
and I've loved it ever since.
That's
And
awesome.
how about you?
So for me, it's funny. I actually the first time I found out about it, I think I was like maybe like 7 or 8, and
Mhm.
it was one of those situations where um, my my mom was actually watching it in another room, and I sort of stumbled in when she was watching it, and it was at the end of it. But the crazy thing, it was on TV. It was just on regular TV. So
Mhm.
literally, Jack Torrance is chasing after Danny with his axe in the hedge maze in the snow, and I walked in to see that him like just mercilessly chasing after him, and and the craziest thing was it cut straight to commercial. Like I couldn't believe that it went to commercial during that scene. I was like, even upset, and I was like, well, what happened? Why is it on commercial right now? So cut to like years and years later, and watching it. I think I watched it when I was maybe like 13 or 14, and I watched it and I was like, oh, like that's the movie I saw that was like permanently sketched in my brain since 6 or 7, and man, I've just loved it ever since. I've been obsessed with it. Then that's when I went back and read the book, and then watched it again, checked out all the similarities, realized how many differences there actually were, got all into all that, of course, which we will get into here today.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, it's one of those movies that, man, I don't know. It's there's this thing where a lot of times we really love movies that are some can be really bad, but we see them in our childhood, so there's like this special like place in our heart for them, whether they're good or bad, And so I'm actually really interested to hear people who have seen it later in life, like how do they view it? Do they view it as like this gold that I think it is, or what? You know what I mean? So guys, let us know in the comments. About the first time you saw it, and I'll try to read some of them because I'm very curious to see other people's reactions
Mhm.
to it for the first time, because it's one of those movies that is just mind blowing. And now, 39 years later, and they just premiered the new 4K restoration of the film at Cannes Film Festival, um, and they got the Ultra HD 4K Blu-ray coming out in October. Obviously, we got Doctor Sleep coming out. We got all
Yes.
these deep fakes with Jim Carrey and on YouTube from Control Shift Face. I mean, it's crazy. So it definitely is living on and living a good life, I'd say.
There's
Now, John,
also
have you
those.
seen those deep fakes?
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you what do you
I've
think?
seen like 2 or 3 of them. But there's also, I don't know who makes them. It's called Toy Shining. I don't know if you've seen those
Yeah, yeah,
pictures,
yeah.
like the Toy Story renditions. That would be a great animated film.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. Even just talking about animated film, I mean, you think about The Shining and how it's inspired so many people. Like, I mean, for everyone who's seen Toy Story, right? I mean, they got the shining carpet in the evil the evil kids room. In Toy Story 3, they have like the Kleenex box with the shining carpet, and then they have the same like little audio mic that Wendy Torrance used when she's trying to get help. I mean, The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, it's everywhere. I mean, that's the beauty of this movie.
I mean, how many movies have you seen with "Here's Somebody"? It's in every other spoof that you see.
Yeah, nonstop. So let's see here. Nightmare Maven says, I don't exactly remember the first time I saw it. I just know it chills me the bone every time I see it. Fair enough. Yeah, it is. It's one of those movies that it just sticks with you, Like it just like I don't find it like as like a particularly overly scary movie, at this point in my life, but at the same time like it gets under your skin and it makes you think and it just stays with you, and that's what I love about this movie. And shout out to Nightmare Maven. She did an amazing hour of the Creepy Channel crawl in hour 3. So be sure to go back and watch that if you haven't. It's phenomenal. She was really, really good with her guests. Let's see who else says. Shattered Perfection. She's she. I don't know. Sorry. I was young when I first watched it, maybe 7. My dad introduced it to me, and I remember him saying he was going to go crazy because at that time my mom just had her last of 6 kids. Oh man, I have 1 kid. I can't imagine having 6 kids. 1 kid is a lot of work.
And not just the scares, but like it's one of the few movies you watch that just immerses you in the atmosphere. Like, when it shows the shot of the hotel, like, you get a chill. Like, you feel cold.
Yeah.
Like, it's, like, when it shows the snow, you're like, damn, it's cold in here, but...
Well, that's the thing, too. It's literally right off the bat. Like, the very first shot, you know, that helicopter shot over the water and over the mountains. And with that music, I mean, it changes the game completely. I mean, it's a whole other level of feeling when you watch a film. And I mean, it's not surprising, like, Ridley Scott called up Stanley Kubrick and was like, hey, I need some footage for Blade Runner. Can I borrow some of that helicopter footage? It's like, well, of course you want to borrow that footage. It's friggin' unbelievable. So yeah, I saw the Simpsons parody before the movie. Oh, really? Ben Grimm saw the Simpsons parody before the movie. That's crazy. Shout out to Ben Grimm as well. Have you been on the entire Creepy Crawl? I feel like you have. I think you have. He's putting in work. Okay. So yeah, we got some good stories here.
Awesome.
So, all right. So, I guess, John, what do you want to talk about first? I mean, you want to get into the heavy hitters of like the ending and go right into that, or do you want to start a little bit smaller and work our way up to it? What do you think?
Well, why not like The Shining? Just do like a methodical build-up. Start small and then go out big. Okay.
Well, let's. I guess let's talk about. I mean, it's hard to talk small on this. I guess so. Yeah. Let's talk about. You know, for anyone who's seen Room 237, the documentary about all the conspiracies and things like that, I found, you know, obviously there's some that I'm just like, that is utter bullshit, but there's a lot in there that's like, holy crap, like that's definitely on point. And even like the little things where it's like Jack Nicholson is literally reading a Playgirl in the middle of the lobby while he's waiting for Omen to come in. Like, if that's not a sure sign of this guy is crazy from the start of the film, like, I don't know what it is. Because, I mean, who would be reading that right before an interview?
Why would a hotel have it in the waiting room? In the lobby?
Just, it must be one of those 1-hour hotels, you know? Quick turnaround. So, also, yeah, I mean, I think for me, that really sort of told me that, like, okay, this is, in the book, Jack Torrance has this, you know, slow crawl into madness, you know, where he starts off, he's an alcoholic, recovering alcoholic, but he ain't so crazy. He ain't crazy, you know? And then as he gets into the Overlook takes him over and he dives deep into madness. But here in The Shining, for me, in the movie, it seems like he already crazy. Like, I mean, so I think like they don't have that progression in the movie. They'd have him starting as crazy, and it's pretty phenomenal that way because you know going into it like it's just gonna really hit the fan, you know.
Also, the placement of scenes, like Interview, he's totally normal. The ride up, he's that saw it on the television. He seems kind of, and then during the tour, he's normal again. It's just like he's unstable the whole movie. Yeah,
like he's on a stage. Well, that's the thing too, is like because we know at this point in age that Jack Nicholson himself is a bit of a lunatic. So it was one of those things where you're watching and you're like, so is this Jack Nicholson just being normal crazy, like trying to act, or is he actually straight up crazy in this? Obviously, he's got to be straight up crazy for the film, but like, yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, he's definitely crazy.
I mean, he's probably the biggest, next to Daniel Day-Lewis, the biggest Oscar, like, highly proclaimed actor. This could have been a throwaway horror role, but it's everybody's go-to Jack Nicholson movie.
Yeah.
I mean, more so than Cuckoo's Nest, more so than Chinatown, or even Batman, everyone looks at Jack Torrance as the Jack Nicholson role.
Yeah, it's definitely taken on quite the life. We're getting a lot of shout outs for Shane Dawson. He did a little ghost hunting thing at the Stanley Hotel. Let's do that. Let's talk a little bit about the hotels and to keep it a little smaller. So, obviously, the Stanley Hotel, excuse me, the Stanley Hotel is where Stephen King went in Estes Park, Colorado, and he was staying there one night and he started dreaming some shit. And I'm pretty sure he was dreaming about Joe Hill, which is his son, and who's an amazing author. If you haven't read Joe Hill, get on it. Join Nightmare Maven's Creepy Book Club because she reads a lot of good books on there. Anyway, so yeah, he had a dream about his kid Joe Hill, and the dream I think was about in the hallway the what's it called? The fire hose. Yeah, it started like coming after his kid, and it had like the teeth and everything, and that was like the start of The Shining, right? Which is like crazy because of all the things in the Shining universe. That's like one of the things you kind of want to like not think about in terms of the TV movie and things like that, and just the terrible CGI. But yeah, so he had that dream there at the Stanley Hotel, and he started busting out The Shining book, and then the hotel then comes into Stanley Kubrick's hands, and you have him taking after the Ahwahnee Hotel that's in Yosemite Park. He takes all the, he gets inspired by the look of it, even when it comes to the elevators, like that's there, the Colorado Lounge. I mean, all of it is inspired from there. And then he goes and shoots the exterior shots at the Timberline Lodge in Oregon, and then he shoots most of it just, in his backyard, hanging out in England, building all the sets and building hedge mazes, and obviously the hedge maze disappears and reappears in the film.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. So, a lot of location stuff going on here.
It took near... I know Eyes Wide Shut is his longest shoot, but The Shining was well over 100 days of shooting, or close to half a year or something like that. And I know poor Shelley Duvall was not doing well during it.
Yeah, and Scatman Crothers, too, like, really struggled. I think, It's funny, like, I literally just watched a found footage movie, Willow Creek, on Shudder, and review coming soon. And, but it was like, we shot it in 5 days. And you think about shooting a film in 5 days in terms of, like, an actor's life, and then you think of like Eyes Wide Shut or The Shining, and it's like, oh, you're gonna sign on for like 2 years of your life. Sorry, that's just how it's gonna be. And then when we say it's gonna be done, we're actually gonna keep shooting anyways. So pretty crazy. I mean, it's almost like in a way it like just takes over your life, and as an actor, like, well, like you're gonna miss a lot of opportunities.
and Kubrick is such a madman of surgical precision of every scene. You're probably going to get a little abused, and probably driven to your wit's end.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And for those that don't know, The Shining has the Guinness World Records for the most takes of one scene, and it's the most emotionally distraught scene possibly in the whole movie.
Of course, it is. Wow. Yeah, it's.
I can imagine that.
I can't imagine. Thank God I don't act, because that would be horrific. And then what about maybe? I know we get a lot of chat talk here about the moon landing conspiracy and things like that. So I guess let's start with we start with room 217 in the book, right, for Stephen King's version, and then we jump start to room 237. Which is where the naked lady hangs out and makes out with Jack, has a wonderful time in that room. but the conspiracy theories really start with room 237 because what is it, like 237 something miles away is like the exact distance to the moon. 237,000. I feel like that's short, but million. I can't remember. But yeah, like that starts it off, right? And then obviously with Danny wearing that Apollo shirt throughout most of the film. So you guys let us know in the chat what do you think about the whole moon landing? Do you guys think that Stanley Kubrick helped in creating a fake moon landing for all of the world to see? John, why don't you start? What do you think?
I don't. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that show it could be bullshit, but I think. I mean, granted, Room 237, no matter how crazy these theories are, these people, there's like 4 people with crazy theories throughout the documentary, something like that, 4 or 5. Like, they really, they nitpick every little thing that kind of makes even a big skeptic like myself go, maybe. So it's kind of hard to tell. And I mean, Kubrick, you look at pictures of him, you can tell he's always got something going on. So, I mean...
It's that 200 IQ.
Yeah. He's quite an enigma. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, not sure. Also, one thing I like about it was... I saw something about Kubrick liking a disorientation. Like, putting things in the film, like, small example... Danny's sandwich, one bite's taken out, cut to Wendy, cut back, and the sandwich is like falling apart.
Yeah.
So maybe he put in the moon landing stuff or the Playgirl just to completely frig with the viewers. That's a little more what I lean towards, but
I don't. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. He definitely plays with our emotions in many, many ways. It's interesting though. It obviously part of it comes from him doing 2001, A Space Odyssey, and we get those images of space and the Earth, and, it's completely mind-blowing, and, of course, you would go to Kubrick and be like, hey, help us out, But then, at the same time, that footage is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's earth-shattering. So, for him to, do that, and then it's all right, now let's make a sort of crappy black and white, grainy, footage, and I don't know, man, I just don't buy it. I'd like to think we did land on the moon. I really would. That's my heart hoping that's true. But there's definitely, he's, again, like you said, he's toying with us, and he's definitely playing with our emotions, no doubt.
Also, I saw somewhere he had an interview for, I think, Time or Rolling Stone, and he took his own photo in the mirror. So he was such a perfectionist that I don't think he would have made some Blair Witch moon landing type thing. He might have shown up and been like, I don't want to be any part of this.
It's interesting because there's definitely at least in Room 237, they talk about him being bored after making Barry Lyndon and looking for that next big whatever. So in a way, you can kind of if the U.S. government came to him and was like, "Hey, we got a proposition for you. I don't think anybody can pull it off," and then he starts really thinking "Oh, I can pull it off. Trust me." And then sees it as a an adventure, a goal, some sort of nobody could ever do this. I can figure it out. Kind of feel like he might want to do that, Flat Earthers. Yeah, we're not going to get into Flat Earthers, Freaky Girls Live. I don't know where to start with that. So yeah, and then I don't think he did. I really don't. But what about the take in terms of the Indian stuff going on inside the documentary? Because I think there's I mean, I think it's very obvious that the amount of times he brings up Indians, Native Americans in the movie, I mean, it's several times, from the walls and the look, and the decorations. Wendy brings it up, talking about the artwork. Ullman talks about it, on the tour, saying ancient Indian burial ground.
And this was pre-Poltergeist, pre-Pet Cemetery.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's there's a lot to be said on that stuff, and then obviously like the cans that are behind Scatman Crothers and Jack, they're both specifically placed right behind their heads. So I definitely think
they're kind of too, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like they're kind of switched. Then when it cuts back, it's more
right.
faced. Draw your attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going for that sort of thing. And then with all the red, white, and blue that everyone's wearing, there's definitely something going on there for sure. I mean, that's a huge main theme for them.
And also music.
So let's just talk. Let's get it out of the way. Let's just get it out of the way. We're half an hour in. Let's get this little TV movie out of the way. Is there anyone who likes the TV movie? And John, why don't you say your piece first? I'll say my little piece, what I think about the movie. But go ahead.
Like most Stephen King TV cable miniseries, it's 90s TV budget. It's not quite the spectacle that the Kubrick film is. It does what it can. I don't think it's a very good movie. I think the character of Jack is done a little bit better. It is a bit more of a descend and more of a character study.
Right.
But just with the CGI, it's not. And also, you look at Kubrick's, Hedge Maze, Axe. It's sort of a backpedal to CGI topiaries and a croquet mallet.
Yeah.
And it a little too long, which the book is plenty long itself, but just the kid is kind of annoying to listen to.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the kid.
Yeah.
You talk about the kid, Danny Lloyd, from the original Kubrick movie, and he's mind-blowing. I don't know if anyone knows how they found him. Leon Vitali, who was the special assistant, personal assistant, the man who did everything for Stanley Kubrick. He was in Barry Lyndon. He's actually in Eyes Wide Shut. He's the main guru in the red red outfit. He does everything for Stanley Kubrick. Really good documentary about him called Film Worker on Netflix. If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. Really, really good. You're gonna learn a lot from that movie. But Leon Vitali was he was an actor, and Kubrick said, and he went to Kubrick and said, "Look, I'd like to learn more about what you do. I'm kind of like amazed by what you do. I'm interested in the behind the scenes stuff, behind the camera stuff." And Kubrick was like, go learn some stuff and then come back to me. So he went and learned some stuff, came back to Kubrick, and one of Kubrick's first gigs that he gave him was, go find me a Danny Torrance. And he searched all over, did casting calls all over the world, and he was the one who was like, this is the one. Danny Lloyd's the one. And throughout the entire movie, you can see it in Vivian Kubrick's behind-the-scenes documentary as well. You see him, running with little Danny Lloyd all over the place and having a jolly old good time. He was the one to really help Danny Lloyd through. And I feel like for the TV movie, this kid did not have a Leon Vitali to help him through these scenes because, between I don't want to talk bad about someone's physical attributes at all, but I do feel like I couldn't look away from his teeth and the way his mouth was shaped, and I just found myself constantly staring there. And if I wasn't staring at there, I was staring at the bowl cut. And if you've ever seen the cover of that movie, the way the light shines down, it looks like he's just wearing a bowl, like he's like a UFO alien guy. It's so bizarre. But then in terms of the movie, Stephen King wanted to do it his way, and I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate that they did it at Stanley Hotel. I appreciate that they did it with Mick Garris because they had a great run with The Stand, which is also coming out later in the fall on Blu-ray. I'm super psyched about that. So it makes sense. It's like, well, we got Stephen King writing a script with a director who's directed The Stand, so he knows how to do it. They got a great working relationship. Let's give it a go. Like, it makes perfect sense. But they got that TV movie budget, okay? They're trying to do expensive CGI stuff that just looks embarrassing. Like, just throws you way out. I mean, the first time you see Tony, like, yeah, the first time you see Tony and he's like floating over the cliff saying, "Don't go there, Danny." It's like, oh my God, cringeworthy. But I do want to say this, and the TV movie is really hard to watch in terms of, because it's TV, back in the day where most scenes are talk heavy as opposed to visually stunning. So it's a lot of talk heavy stuff. So it's slow, but and Horror Addicts mentioned it too. Like, Rebecca De Mornay is really good in it, and I love that they do the portrayal of her as a strong woman throughout the whole thing. Now, I do love Shelley Duvall too. But she does take me out of it a little bit, like when she's doing her run and like kind of flailing. Now, she's a strong woman as well, but I think she progresses too, where she's like, all right, F this, I'm going to protect my kid. I'm going to throw that bastard into the freezer, and I'm going to do whatever I need. And I really appreciate that. But I think I like the character, Rebecca De Mornay's character and the Stephen King character better. And also to the same point, like, you can't beat Jack Nicholson's portrayal. So Steven Weber had, I don't know if it's Weber or Weber, but he had no chance to, like, he had no chance, just like the TV movie had no chance. And he did do some things really, really well, I thought. And he does have a bit crazy in him too, but overall, man, you can't watch 4 hours of that. It's, ugh.
I mean, his crazy is a little over the top camp as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when Jack Nicholson does it, it's captivating.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets the eyebrows going and everything, but yeah, Steven Weber's a bit over the top and comical.
Yeah. The dude from Wings, Horror Addicts. Yeah, exactly. The dude from Wings. I mean, that's the thing too, is like, there's this weird part of me, like that's a movie like I can put on at night and like happily fall asleep to, like just it's super nice and chill. And then, but I mean, there's so many amazing Stephen King TV movie adaptations, so you had to try it. You know what I mean? I mean, It is one of the greatest for me. I love It, the TV movie. I love Needful Things. Old school Ed Harris, Max von Sydow. Like, I love that. Like, what's the other? Rose Red. Like, even like Desperation. Like, there's so many good ones to just like kick back to.
Yeah, and I will say The Shining does not have as bad CGI as The Langoliers. That pretty much takes the cake for bad TV CGI.
Poor Langoliers. I feel like there's definitely like a couple of those redheaded stepchilds, right? Where they're like, let's not talk about that.
But yeah, also, Shelley Duvall, even Stephen King said that her performance was kind of misogynistic. That was actually his word.
Yeah.
Just damsel in distress, failing. She's basically doing olive oil, just kind of flailing around. But if you think about it, if your husband's chasing you with an axe, you're probably going to be crying and screaming.
I'd be flailing around. I'd be flailing around like a lunatic. Yeah.
Yeah. Croquet mallet, you might have a little bit more balls and try to fight back a little bit.
It's true.
So I'm.
Oh yeah, we're getting some great shout outs for other movies too. Like Storm of the Century is great. Great TV movie that Stephen King wrote specifically for TV. No book, just straight script. Freaky Girls Live wrote Kingdom Hospital. Yeah, like Kingdom Hospital is great. I was bummed out that wasn't actually longer. That one's like this rare gem, huh?
I said I think I caught the first 2 episodes of that. Yeah, I was in like 6th grade, so I think where it wasn't like The Shining, Christine, stuff like that. if I watched it now, I might be into it. But back then, I think I was too young to really get super into it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, like let's just say this: the TV movie has its merits, yet at the same time, it will not stand or hold up to a cinematic masterpiece. But I do thank Mick Garris for trying and Steve Kim for trying, because it's I'm obsessed with anything The Shining, so I'm all for it regardless. I mean, I do own it. I'm not gonna lie, I do own it, but whatever.
Well, and the miniseries teaches people, some things read better.
Yeah.
I mean, the topiary scene could be scary in a book because it leaves your mind to make up to it.
Yeah.
If you put it into a CGI TV movie, it's going to look silly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some things read better. So, it's not all Stephen King's fault.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. Oh, yeah, Tommy Knockers is another one with Jim Smits, where it's one of those, like, it's no masterpiece by any point, but at the same time, like, I love having that movie on. Like, it's another movie that, like, I have no problem, like, putting on at night and, like, watching as I fall asleep. Like, I've seen it so many times. They're all great. And then Ben Grimm talks about Ready Player One and that homage that Steven Spielberg does to the movie. I think that's that's definitely my favorite scene in Ready Player One. Such a great sequence in general, where they have, like, some of the characters know exactly what happened in The Shining, so they're like, oh man, we are in trouble, guys. We are in serious trouble. And then, the big character, where he's like, I haven't seen The Shining. What happens? And it's so classic to me. Like, and I love how they redo it, and yet then they take it one step further, where the lady just kind of goes off and goes crazy. So well done. That was one of my such a great homage.
There's also the homage in the Jack Black Goosebumps movie. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like this rivalry between R.L. Stine, Stephen King. He has to go off to his typewriter solves the story for those that haven't seen it. So they're at the school. He goes in the gym, and there's a stage production of The Shining. So he has to sit there with his typewriter on a stage production.
It's classic.
And he has, like, this God damn it kind of.
Man,
it's great.
I love Goosebumps. I love the books. I love R.L. Stine. I love the movies. They're so silly. Haunted Mask is I love that. Fear Street for back in the day books, those were great too. In terms of Gory B and Horror Addicts, on the first hour of this Creepy Channel crawl, they talked a lot about Goosebumps and introducing kids to horror, and I think Goosebumps is an excellent way to do that. Like I said, I have a 1-year-old, and I got him saying red rum and moving his little finger, and I'm very excited about that. So let's move into Dr. Sleep a bit. So just FYI, guys, I wouldn't necessarily call them spoilers, but there's going to be a little bit of spoilers for Dr. Sleep in terms of the book. But I'll try not to overly talk about anything of great importance. But this will be a good way to sort of talk about the differences, and I'm pumped that Mike Flanagan is doing this movie, because I got to be honest, like when the book came out, I was super excited. I started reading the book, and then I got a little agitated by the book, and it was totally on me, but like I felt like I was upset that Danny Torrance wasn't in every single scene of the book. I wanted, when I was reading, I wanted to go back to the Overlook Hotel. Like, I wanted to revisit that. I wanted him to only talk about his dad and what happened. Like, I didn't want any new characters. I wanted to see Danny in his sort of alcoholic state and see how that portrayal was going to be. And I think Ewan McGregor is going to do an amazing job with that. But at the end of the day, I was so upset meeting new characters. I was like, no, I don't want to meet new characters. I want to stay in 1980. And so I actually put the book down, and I went through, a existential crisis, obviously, be like, how could I put down the book that's the sequel to The Shining and this thing that I love so much? And then I go back and then I read it again and with a more open mind. But to be honest, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I want to see this as a movie. I'm really worried about it. And then the trailer came out, and the recreating that they did with those scenes, I mean, you couldn't help but be like, wait, is that the original or is that? And then like Mike Flanagan writes on Twitter, is like, no, we made those. Those are all our originals. It is like, oh wow. And then Ewan McGregor being on it, like I can't help but think like this is gonna be legit. And I mean, Mike Flanagan, for anyone who doesn't know, he did Hush, he did Gerald's Game, he did the unbelievable Haunting of Hill House. I don't know how anyone can take Shirley Jackson's novel and create what he created. I mean, unbelievable in terms of storylines, in terms of being able to go back and forth in time so effortlessly the way he did. I mean, in terms of writing scripts, like that was mind-blowing. I think like the only other person who can do bouncing back in time is like Christopher Nolan, if you watch like The Prestige or even like Dunkirk, Memento. So it's just, so I'm really excited about that now. And I know we talked about that a little bit, after watching the trailer reactions and stuff like that. And I'm totally on board. How about everyone else? Are we totally on board with Dr. Sleep with Mike Flanagan? Because please say yes. Just say yes.
And also, his film Gerald's Game was one of the most surprising Stephen King adaptations, at least in recent years. I mean, it's too bad it went to Netflix because it was actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And I knew Dr. Sleep was going to be made, but the trailer kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I kind of thought it was on Hollywood's back burner for a while. And then the trailer just came out. And I was kind of nervous because I'm not a big paranormal guy. Like, I have a hard, willing suspension of disbelief, which is weird because The Shining's my favorite movie.
Yeah, you are weird.
So
That's it. You're weird.
I mean, the stuff that felt like a Kubrick sequel was beautifully done. I mean, like those wide centered shots looked great. The aged red rum door looked beautiful. The end of the trailer with the boom boom was, I mean,
goosebumps. Goosebumps.
Yeah. But the other stuff kind of, and no offense to people that like these kind of movies, it kind of looked like a Blumhouse ghost movie, like the newer stuff that felt like a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of mixed, but I feel a lot better than I did before seeing the trailer. And of course, I'm going to see it. I have to.
That's interesting. Your Blumhouse thought, because it definitely has the same. It has the same color palette as like the Blumhouse Productions logo when it comes up, right? It's got like that off green and the black, and those are kind of the tones of that trailer and the poster, and that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, I'm so on board.
And it's kind of weird that, because when I heard there's going to be a movie, I was like, okay, if it's based on the book, it's going to have to be linked more so to the TV miniseries, if anything, especially if King has anything to do with it. But this is one of the rare times Hollywood was smart and made it a sequel to the Kubrick film. So, I mean, I don't know how King feels about that.
So I think it was Mike Flanagan who put out a little information, and he said they had both Stephen King and Kubrick's estate on board with his interpretation, because he's obviously, we learned from the trailer that he is taking from the Kubrick universe while doing the Stephen King sequel. I mean, talk about it again. That is not an easy thing to do. One of the big things is like Dick Halloran. You know what I mean? In the book, Dick Halloran survives and he becomes a father figure to Danny, and obviously we know what happened to to Halloran in the original movie. So, I'm really interested to see, and if you look on IMDb, there is a Dick Halloran in Doctor Sleep, but,
It's kind of like Ash versus Evil Dead, because it kind of mixes Evil Dead 1 and 2 in continuity.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely not an easy job for Flanagan to take, but, I mean, he's already done it, so God bless him.
It's like making a DC Marvel film and mashing them together.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy.
That's one thing I'm thinking about. I mean, like, where this movie's so openly interpretable, if that's a word. Like, you can have a debate with like a comic book fan, and you'll be called stupid in every name in the book for having a different opinion. Everyone kind of accepts and buys different opinions on The Shining because it's so vague, and there is evidence for every theory that everyone just kind of accepts it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure what your if you have a conclusive idea of it or your opinion of it.
The ending?
I mean, yeah. Or not just the ending, but like, my favorite part of Room 237 is the mirror theory. I don't know if you remember that.
I'll explain it for everyone if they...
Okay. For those that don't know, probably the biggest debate of The Shining is he going crazy for various reasons? Personal demons, alcohol, contempt for family, cabin fever, or is he influenced by ghosts and stuff like that? The mirror theory, kind of like every time he talks to a ghost, whether it be Lloyd or Grady, he's looking at a reflective surface. So each ghost kind of represents an inner demon. Like Lloyd's is alcoholism, Grady's his contempt for his family. And I just think it's kind of interesting because I've always leaned more towards the cabin fever side, or just the descent into personal madness side. But even within that theory, like, how does he get out of the pantry? I mean, there's evidence on both sides, but there's always little kind of nuggets that kind of link both theories together. So I think that's interesting.
I can tell you the answer right now. The answer is I have no clue. I have no definitive evidence, and that's the beauty of how Kubrick did it, right? And that brings us into the ending as well, that we can talk about the ending that that Kubrick burned all the prints of. So there is an ending that they shot, and mind you, if the ghosts can just move things, why don't they just kill Danny themselves? If they can do that, why not just take them out? Why do they need Jack? I don't know. I'm not ready to go into that talk yet. But
I guess it's not a ceremonious, I guess.
Yeah. The ritual. I do kind of take the like reincarnation approach for it. Like I think like with the photo in 1921, I think it keeps going, and I think that he froze. Like there's just gonna be another Jack Torrance coming in,
there's also you've always been the caretaker, so it's all so there's also that, and the whole deja vu, I've been here before kind of talk.
It's tough to say for sure. I think. Man, I don't know. I do think that like with the ending that they filmed that they didn't show, there's 2 additional minutes at the end of the film that was cut off. We can't find the footage anywhere because Kubrick supposedly burned all of it, but it does still live in the script. And there's 2 additional minutes, and it's a scene where Ullman goes to Wendy and Danny at the hospital and says, "Hey, man, you guys, I'm so sorry that this happened. Why don't you guys come to LA and stay with me? I got a nice little guest house by the beach. Like, we'll have a grand old time, And then at the end, he throws the ball to Danny. The ball that rolls in that we have no idea where that ball came from when it goes to Danny in the beginning. and it's like, okay, like that explains so much more. Now that's telling us that Ullman is a part of this. That's telling us that Ullman is either a ghost himself or some sort of human who's working with the ghost. You know what I mean? Like all sorts of things now can come up, but we have at least a channel that we can go towards and say, okay, this is this and this is this. I mean, so it's really very interesting when you see in the book, the very first line of the book is Jack Torrance thought officious little prick, talking about Ullman because they hate each other. But then in the movie, Ullman loves Jack. He's like his hero. He's like the go-to guy. And of course he's going to be your go-to guy because you know exactly what he's going to do and what you're going to do to him. And it makes perfect sense that he's a part of it. And for anyone who hasn't, anyone who does podcasts, if you have listen to Room 237 podcast, it's actually really brilliant. They do a take on the 1 minute movies. So they discuss 2 minute 37-second intervals of each movie starting at minute 1, and they break down everything in those 2 minutes. And I can't recall her name, but the main podcaster on that, she goes really deep into the conspiracy of Ullman being a part of, a ghost, and makes perfect sense with that ending. So of course, like, Kubrick got rid of that, but man, I want to see that ending. And then, like, Warner Brothers put out, when they were making the Blu-ray, they put out a press release saying this is the 146-minute version of the film instead of the original 144-minute version. So everyone was like, oh my God, they put the scene in. And then, obviously, Warner Brothers had to be like, oops, our bad. Like, we didn't mean that. It's just the 144. Now, is that a PR move? Is that like a brilliant marketing plan to get everyone talking about it? Like, pretty brilliant if it was.
Also, that final scene, wasn't there like a "we couldn't find your husband's body" type dialogue?
I think so, yeah.
That is kind of a little Hollywood.
Yeah.
Kind of like, ooh, scare.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for that sake, I'm glad it wasn't in there. But with the ball and everything else, I mean, there are stills from that scene, and it looks beautiful.
There are stills from the hospital scene?
Yeah, they're kind of gritty and grainy. It's kind of hard to see. You can't see anything specific, but it does look interesting.
I haven't seen those. I'm ashamed to say it.
I mean, obviously, it's something new we've never seen before. It could look like crap, and we'll still say it looks awesome.
Yeah. Man. Yeah,
and I was going to say, I'm surprised we haven't talked about it. I think that the music is like a whole other character along with the hotel. The music is crazy.
Yeah, I think, man, the music is one of those things too where it's, it's Wendy Carlos, who has worked with Stanley Kubrick in the past. She did like Clockwork Orange, and I actually just recently got her CD. The Part 1 CD, where it has a lot of the sound, a lot of tracks that she made for The Shining that didn't get into it, and a lot of it, to be fair, a lot of it's really, really good, and a lot of it's really, really bad, and like definitely not bad, but it's not the tone that Kubrick's going for. And
does it have that piece from the end of the Vivian Kubrick documentary? That sort of spooky, Halloween-y sounding one?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
That's awesome sounding.
And then, but you can tell, like, all those, like, creepy behind this, it's almost like those creepy, it's not really music, it's like the voices doing those, like, that weird, like, sonorous humming and stuff. Like, Wendy Carlos created that stuff, and it's just so beautiful, and it's so perfect. Like, it gives me the creeps. It's great.
And like during the all work, no play, and when he goes to unlock the bathroom door, it's like this creepy, crawly bug kind of sounding effect.
Yeah.
Like that would be a bug movie.
Yeah, oh man.
And it's kind of like how Tobe Hooper did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, just finding inventive, ominous ways to create eerie music.
Oh yeah, so, yeah, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one's great. Yeah, even just the camera flash going off at the beginning is like it's great. Yeah. Yeah, that one's great too. Yeah, the music's great. I think we didn't talk about Mr. Grady yet. We have like a couple more minutes. Let's talk about Charles versus Delbert Grady. Do you think Charles and Delbert Grady is the same person? Now, Kubrick definitely has some mistakes in this film, talking about the hedge maze. Like, he didn't purposely make that shit disappear, all right? The helicopter blades at the beginning, you can see it. So, Kubrick does make mistakes too. So, with that being said, is Charles Grady and Delbert Grady the same person? Is it a reincarnation? Like, what do you think?
It blends into everything. I mean, maybe he was Charles when he was the caretaker, and then he got absorbed, which absorption is another big theory.
Yeah.
Maybe Charles is his formal name. Maybe Delbert is his friendly name. I mean, there's everything. Maybe Ullman got his name wrong.
Right.
Which also, that end scene would have helped because he calls him Charles. Maybe he's trying to throw Jack off. Like, yeah, he's not the guy that murdered his family. Don't worry about him. I mean, there's a whole world of it.
It's interesting because there's you have Charles Grady and Delbert Grady, and I think Kubrick is too smart and too great a director, and he's got too keen an eye to miss that, you know what I mean? Or to go whatever, let's just keep it in, But at the same time, when you watch Vivian Kubrick's documentary, there's definitely the crazy side of production. You got that one shot where Shelley Duvall's getting her makeup done, going over lines, and then Jack Nicholson's over on the other side of the table, doing his lines with his dialogue coach, and then you have Kubrick like a madman, going like this, and they're all learning these brand new scenes. In that essence, it's not crazy to think that they just messed up the names, because I mean, production's crazy, continuity is crazy to have to get with. So yeah.
There's also the thing with the daughters in the same conversation. Ullman says he had two girls about 8 and 10. But then when we see them, they're identical twins.
Yeah.
So it could just be another disorientation. It could be maybe they messed up.
Yeah.
Maybe we're supposed to think two different things. I mean,
yeah.
The best part about The Shining is there's no wrong answers to anything.
And let's cut it there. There's no wrong answers.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Please check out John's Room 237 reviews. Subscribe to him. I'm Nocturnal Horrors. Please subscribe to me if you can. We really appreciate it. Thank you to Horror Addicts and Gory B for setting all this up. This has been amazing, and can't wait to watch more. And hopefully I will play this outro to perfection. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you coming.
Thanks a lot for having me.
You're watching the Creepy Channel Crawl. 20 hours of horror live streams featuring some of the creepiest channels on YouTube. Next is Marbones88. Click on the link in the description and continue the crawl. And for the full schedule, check out the Creepy Channel Crawl page on horroraddictstv.com.